So you're thinking about buying property here in Rhode Island? Well, in today's video, we're gonna talk about how to make an offer here in Rhode Island. I am standing here with our premier lender on the YouTube channel, Jason Seavoy. So when it comes to making an offer, you need 3 specific items to make that offer. You need consideration, you need a purchase and sales agreement, and you need a pre-qual letter, which comes from Jason. Now, when it comes to consideration, usually it's $1,000 and all you need is a picture of a check. If your offer becomes accepted, that becomes negotiable on your second deposit. Even if you're a VA buyer with consideration, you do want to put money down, but that money can apply towards your closing costs. And you want to be able to look strong even if you're doing 100% financing as a VA buyer. The second thing you'll need is a purchase and sales agreement. We will put together an email of all the information you need in order to fill out this agreement. And then the third item you need is a pre-qual letter, and that's where our lender, Jason, comes in. Jason, why is a pre-qual letter important?
Well, Devin, chronologically speaking, I would even move this here because this is vital in an effort to make a well-informed decision, to have comfortability around that payment, and to know kind of the scope and magnitude of your buying power. We really want to dive in here to your income, credit, down payment. So this is really a big piece here. And it's important that you've got a good idea of what you're looking at so you're not wasting your own time, the realtor's time.
Of course, you know what your target is, right?
Exactly.
Because if you don't have a pre-qual letter and you're just looking at properties, how do you even know what you buy? And if you come across something you love, you may not even have a shot at it because offers are due 24 to 48 hours later if they do a highest and best quickly. And you may not even be able to afford that home.
You're exactly right. And there's a lot of factors that go into this pre-approval, and really it's about comfortability of payment. Simply because you qualify at a certain number, it doesn't necessarily mean that's where you want to be or you're comfortable with that payment. So this is where we do quite a bit of homework, and it allows you to make better use of the client's time because you're not wasting their time or spinning their wheels with something that's outside of their purview. You're able to dial in and find them what they're looking for.
Now for the buyers out there, Jason, how much work are you doing ahead of time before you produce this pre-qual letter for them?
Most of it, honestly. Okay. So if we do our homework and we're diligent and we operate in a manner that's timely and prudent, this is where we want to spend our time. Vetting out the income, the credit, the down payment is a huge part of this. And it's worth noting that we have a snapshot, Devin. So we have a picture in time of not just that income, but the debt load and these other things. So we'll talk more later, but there's a lot of do's and don'ts once we get to this point to make sure that this is valid and then we can deliver what we've discussed.
Makes sense, and I would agree. And in fact, the pre-qual would probably go to number 1. And this list was in no specific order, but we want to have the pre-qual as number 1 because before we go out, before we're making consideration, before we're filling out a purchase and sales agreement, we got to know what the targets are.
Absolutely,
right?
And the better job we do dialing this in, the better you can serve your client and I can serve my client.
And the more confident we can be as an agent when making offers to other listing agents, because one thing we like to do, and I think it's helped a lot when we've gotten deals done, is I'll say, hey Jason, we're submitting an offer. Can you please call the listing agent and instill the confidence that you have in this buyer?
Exactly, and so this correlates to your point directly to your success level and to the client's happiness.
Sure, absolutely. So those are the 3 things you need in order to make an offer. Now, let's say your offer gets accepted. There are 2 major roadblocks to getting your offer to closing on that deal, right? Your first one is your inspection contingency. Your second one is your mortgage contingency. So if your offer is accepted and you have inspections, you have 10 business days in the state of Rhode Island to conduct any and all inspections. If you need a little more time, you can negotiate that with the seller. So in that 10-day period, you may do septic inspections, main drain inspections, electrical inspections, foundation inspections. So having an agent who knows what they're doing becomes really, really vital to making sure you're not buying a property that after you close, you're gonna spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand on. So inspections become very, very important. Now, in the inspection period, if we find things and we negotiate those items with the sellers or request those items, let me be very clear, a seller does not have to fix anything. They are not obligated under any reason to fix anything, but somebody who wants to do a deal and wants to sell their property, usually there's a little bit of a yin and a yang, right? So finding a common ground for the buyer and seller to agree on, hey, we want these items fixed, and the seller agrees, or a concession is made. Now, if we come to an agreement, then we sign a repair addendum, and the repair addendum basically is identifying what the buyer and the seller have agreed to, so there's no ambiguity, right? Once I get you through inspections, once we sign the repair addendum, it falls back on this guy, Jason, to get you through mortgage contingencies. So Jason, what can a buyer expect in this period?
So this part is actually easier for me than you, right? Or easier than that part anyhow. Yeah. So when we're done negotiating and we've hit a point where we're under contract and approved, this part, everything goes through underwriting. They double check the work we've done.
On the front end.
Correct. And if we've done that job right, and we do, this point should be a piece of cake. This is really about not following up, right? Don't go buy a new Ford F-350. Don't open any new accounts. Make sure that everything is copacetic at your job. When we get here, Devin, the only way this doesn't work at this point of the process is ultimately if you quit your job or you change your mind, right? So there's ways to get out of these contracts in the event some unforeseen circumstance happens.
Or you go out and you buy a boat and your debt to income ratio is now.
Well, that's it, right? So we have a snapshot, like I said earlier, a picture in time of your income, your credit, your down payment, your balances. The ideal situation is nothing changes. And we drive that home from the very beginning.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you from the lender's perspective, if somebody's gonna make a purchase, what dollar amount should they start to have a conversation with you about if they're going to make a purchase? Anything over $1,000, anything over $5,000 in this mortgage contingency period?
Ideally, anything whatsoever. So, random using of credit cards, these things don't really affect us, right? But if you're thinking about purchasing anything new, anything that will skew that debt to income ratio, that's a conversation that should be had.
Sure.
And I do well to kind of preempt that because unfortunately, life circumstance happens, people make changes, things happen to vehicles. There's a myriad of things that can affect this.
Sure.
But if we've done our job properly, and we do, nothing changes.
So the key here is communicate with Jason throughout the process. And then also our job as representing you as the buyer is to make sure there's no deal killers on the mortgage contingencies, right? Exactly. Appraisals, maybe things that come up on your pay stubs that need to be confirmed. We don't want to send over a mortgage commitment letter without making sure there are absolutely no deal killers left on that mortgage commitment letter.
Well said, well said.
So that's the mortgage commitment. Jason gets you through it. We satisfy that date. This date can be flexible as well. So if we need to move it back a week, we can. If we can move it up, we will. And then it comes to final walkthrough, right? So getting the scheduled day on the calendar, do a final walkthrough. Now, this is a major point I want to point out that a lot of people make mistakes with, is they do walkthroughs 3 days, 5 days, 7 days before the closing date. And this is a horrible mistake. The reason being is a lot can happen in 24 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. So I like to walk the property the day of closing as close as I can to the closing time. So if we're closing at 11 o'clock, I want to do my walkthrough at 10. Reason being, there could be a pipe that burst. There could have been a fire that happened. We want to make sure you're buying the property in the same condition of pretty much when you put your offer in.
Absolutely.
Right? And then number 7 is closing day, which is the same day as your walkthrough. This is basically, we're getting to the table, you're signing a bunch of documents, probably 200 documents,
yeah,
200
close
pieces
to
of
it,
paper.
Correct.
For closing. And really our job is to get you here safely and buying the home that you love. Jason, anything else around closing day?
Yeah, just by the time we hit this point here and this point here, it should be an easy day, right? At that point, we've walked through everything with a fine-tooth comb. We've answered all questions. Frankly, they should know these numbers like the back of their hand at that
before
point.
They get to the closing table.
Days
not when they're flipping the pages over saying, I didn't know my mortgage was $3,000. I thought you said $2,700.
Correct, yeah. These things, a lifetime ago, 15 years ago, you saw these things would happen.
Yeah.
The industry and the regulations have changed so dramatically that honestly, a good 6 or 7 business days before we get here, we've walked through everything down to the penny. And there's no surprises.
Absolutely.
So it becomes a very fun day because everything's exactly how you saw it last. And the biggest problem you have then is the kids fighting over which bedroom they get, or the new furniture that, where are you gonna hang the family photo?
Exactly. So this is how you make an offer in Rhode Island. Other states are different, but this is how you make offers in Rhode Island. If you're looking to purchase property here in the state of Rhode Island, all of our contact information is gonna be in the description below.